this first orientation lesson, just a little help in making sure you can show your work in solving equations. It's similar to the simplifying work in that you're going to have to add a text box each row down that you do your work on, but a couple of new tricks just to make sure you're clear on it. We know that usually the last step of solving is to divide by the coefficient of the variable. And in order to do that, you're going to have to represent it as a fraction. So if I had 3x equals 15, then in order to solve this, I know I need to divide both sides by the coefficient of 3. So I'm going to open up a new equation box, do it as a fraction of 3x over 3 equals, and then this is going to become the fraction 15 over 3. Remembering that you use the right arrow to move from the top to the bottom, the numerator to the denominator, as well as to be done with the fraction. So now that I have that, I'm out of the text box. I can go underneath it and do the actual work. Insert, right? I know that 3 divided by 3, the whole purpose of that is to leave me with x by itself equals, and I'm going to come over to my calculator and do a quick 15 divided by 3 just to make sure I'm accurate, and I get 5. So back in the text box, x equals 5. All right. Now, similarly, you're not going to be able to show certain multiplications like distributive property. So if your next step is correct, though, I'll know it's right. This was an example I have actually down here. I'm just going to quickly copy and paste it right up there. So I know that distributive property is my next step, which means I'm going to open an equation and I would do -4 times x. And I'm going to leave a couple spaces and I'm going to do -4 times -6. Remember, we taught you to do it that way so that the sign of your second term is correct, equals 56, right? And then underneath that, you would simply put insert equation -4x plus 24 equals 56. You could, in theory, skip right down to this part here and not show this work up here. If this is correct, then we know that you did this part correct, which is what it says here. If your next step is correct, we know you distributed properly. This is the long version, but a lot of you guys are going to go straight from here to here. So to see a full example, -4 times x minus 6 equals 56. Underneath it, I'm going to open a new equation box right up here, equation. So I did the distribution, -4x plus 24 equals 56. My next line, my e variable is on the left here, so I need to get rid of whatever else is on the left, which is this positive 24. To get rid of something completely, I'm going to add or subtract. In other words, use its opposite. The opposite of positive 24 is -24, which means on both sides, I will subtract 24. The lineup might be a little bit hard. You do the best you can. It's not going to be perfect, and we understand that. So now underneath that, if I did that subtraction, what I would be left with is -4x on my left equals, and I want to make sure I'm correct, so 56 minus 24 on my calculator gives me 32. So there's my 32. I'm going to go down one more row. I know I have to divide by this coefficient of -4, so I'm going to create a new equation box, and we do division by representing it as fractions. So -4x, right arrow, -4. Right arrow gets me off the fraction. I can go to equals, and then another fraction on this side, which will be 32, right arrow, -4. Again, right arrow gets me out of the text box and back underneath it. The whole purpose of that was to get x by itself equals, and then I'm going over here, 32 divided by -4, and I will get -8. So there is my solution, -8. I want to just show you real quick a reminder. With this inequality, I'm not going to show all of the work, but remember, inequalities usually are two-step questions where you solve, and then you also have to state a number that works, something a lot of you keep forgetting to do right there. So here I distributed 3 times 2, 3 times x, 3 times 2, which gave me 3x plus 6 less than 5x minus 4. The 3x is smaller than the 5x, so I got rid of it by using its opposite on both sides. And 5x minus 3x is 2x. Now I have my variable on the right, so I get rid of whatever's with it. The negative 3. Opposite of negative 3 is positive 3 or plus 3 on both sides. Now I have 9 less than 2x. I know I have to divide, so I created the fractions. And I end up with x is greater than 4.5. Please make sure I kept the relation, x being hugged and 4.5 being pointed at, when I rewrote the solution. So x was on the left right here, which made it a little bit easier for me to read. X is greater than 4.5. Therefore, 5 is the smallest possible integer that works. And down here, remember to flip the inequality if you divide by a negative. So here I was solving for y, which means my equation was not, my inequality was not going to end up as a an integer or a number. It was going to end up with an expression using x. So I got rid of the x on the left, negative 3x on both sides. These are not like terms, so I kept them exactly as they are. My coefficient was negative 6, so I divided everything by negative 6, which left me with y by itself. 18 divided by negative 6 is negative 3, and negative 3 divided by negative 6 is positive 0.5 or positive 1/2. I flipped the inequality because I divided by a negative number. That's the number on the bottom. And I kept 0.5 as a decimal because that's an easy decimal to work with. Down here, when I divided, I had a hard decimal, a non-terminating, so I left it as the fraction. Hope that helps. Feel free to ask questions.